Today, we embark on a journey through time to trace the history of one of the most extraordinary countries on the planet. A country where ancient temples stand beside skyscrapers, centuries-old traditions endure in the modern world, and the forces of nature have shaped human lives for generations. Today, Japan is renowned for its technology, high-speed trains, samurai, blooming cherry blossoms, and rich culture. But thousands of years ago, none of this existed. There were no cities, emperors, or castles. Only a chain of islands amidst a vast ocean, dense forests, active volcanoes, and the first people who were just beginning to settle these lands. Throughout its long history, Japan has survived wars, natural disasters, centuries of isolation from the outside world, and a rapid transformation into one of the most advanced nations today. So kick back, make yourself comfortable. Our journey begins. To understand the history of Japan, we must first travel back so far in time that the country itself did not yet exist. Millions of years ago, the area of the modern Japanese archipelago was simply the eastern edge of the vast Asian continent. The land here was constantly changing. Deep beneath the surface, tectonic plates collided, slowly shaping the geography of the future islands. Over millions of years, the forces of nature gradually detached these lands from the mainland. The Sea of Japan formed between them, and a long chain of islands emerged, the land that would eventually become modern Japan. With the birth of the islands came a defining feature. Japan was situated in one of the most seismically active zones on Earth. Several major tectonic plates still meet here today, making earthquakes and volcanic eruptions a part of this land's story long before the first humans arrived. Volcanoes played a major role in shaping the landscape. They formed new mountains, covered the soil with fertile ash, and altered the coastline. Thousands of years later, one of these volcanoes, Mount Fuji, would become the enduring symbol of Japan. Despite this intense geological activity, nature gradually turned the islands into a hospitable home. Dense forests grew, pristine rivers flowed, and the surrounding seas teemed with marine life. Thanks to a mild climate and abundant rainfall, plant and animal life spread rapidly across the archipelago. By the time nature finished crafting this remarkable world, the Japanese islands were ready for their first inhabitants. And it is with their arrival that the next chapter of our story begins. Scholars still debate when the first humans arrived on the Japanese islands. However, most research points to tens of thousands of years ago, during the last ice age. At that time, global sea levels were significantly lower than they are today. Land bridges connected the Japanese archipelago to the Asian mainland, allowing small groups of hunter-gatherers to gradually migrate to these new lands. Their world was nothing like ours today. They built no grand cities and had no written language. Instead, their small settlements sat near rivers, lakes, and coastlines where food was easier to harvest. Hunting, fishing, and gathering formed the core of their daily life. They hunted deer and wild boar, caught fish, and gathered nuts, berries, and edible plants. Everything nature provided was used with deep respect and care. Over time, one of Japan's most ancient cultures emerged on the islands, the Jōmon culture. It took its name from its distinctive pottery, decorated with cord-marked patterns pressed into wet clay. These people built small pit dwellings, crafted stone and bone tools, wove baskets, and created jewelry from shells and stone. Many artifacts unearthed by archaeologists show that spiritual traditions were just as vital to them as daily survival. The Jōmon culture endured for thousands of years, laying the foundation for the island's future. Over time, however, new waves of migrants began arriving on the archipelago, bringing an entirely different way of life. It was these newcomers who would usher in the next chapter of Japanese history: the dawn of agriculture, the rise of major settlements, and the birth of the first state. Thousands of years later, life on the Japanese islands gradually began to change. Around the 3rd century BC, new waves of settlers arrived on the archipelago from the Korean peninsula and mainland East Asia. They brought with them knowledge that would transform the lives of the local inhabitants forever. One of the most significant innovations was rice cultivation. Unlike hunting and gathering, agriculture provided a stable food supply capable of sustaining much larger populations. Small settlements began to expand, giving rise to the first large communities around fertile lands. Along with agriculture came the advancement of crafts. People learned to forge superior iron tools, use bronze to create weapons and ornaments, and trade between settlements grew increasingly active. Over time, society grew more complex. Families possessing vast lands and food reserves accumulated power. Certain communities gained dominance over others, as their leaders gradually united neighboring territories under their control. By the 3rd century AD, dozens of small chieftainships existed across Japan. At times, they traded with one another or forged alliances. At other times, they waged wars over fertile soil and influence. Amidst these struggles, one particularly powerful realm emerged: Yamato. Its rulers began unifying the majority of the islands, laying the foundation for future Japan. It was during this period that imperial authority began to take shape. According to Japanese legend, the imperial lineage traces its origins back to the sun goddess Amaterasu. For centuries, this myth played a vital role in the nation's history, solidifying the prestige and legitimacy of its rulers. While recorded history and ancient myths do not always align, the state of Yamato represented the crucial first step toward a unified Japan. Major transformations lay ahead. Along with merchants and travelers, new ideas, a writing system, religions, and rich cultural practices would soon reach the islands, altering the course of Japanese history forever. After the formation of the Yamato state, Japan continued to advance rapidly. The country actively adopted knowledge from its neighbors, China and Korea. Written language, Buddhism, new technologies, and formal laws arrived on the islands. The first major cities, majestic temples, and grand palaces rose, with Kyoto becoming the political and cultural heart of the nation for centuries to come. However, as the state grew, so did the struggle for power. Powerful aristocratic families steadily expanded their estates, sparking bitter conflicts, while the central government found it increasingly difficult to control the country. It was during this turbulent era that the samurai made their entrance onto the historical stage. Initially, they were simply warriors who guarded the lands of their lords. Their role was to protect estates, escort rulers, and fight in battles. But with every passing decade, their influence mounted. A samurai's life was bound by strict discipline. From an early age, boys were trained in swordsmanship, archery, horsemanship, and military strategy. Equal emphasis was placed on self-control, respect for elders, and unyielding loyalty to one's lord. Over time, this mindset evolved into a code of honor known as Bushido, the way of the warrior. It demanded courage, honesty, devotion, and a readiness to give one's life for the sake of duty. The katana became the ultimate symbol of the samurai. For a warrior, this sword was far more than a weapon. It was a reflection of his honor and dignity. Many blades were handed down through generations as cherished family heirlooms. By the 12th century, the samurai had amassed so much power that military leaders began dictating the fate of the entire nation. Thus began a new era, one in which Japan would be ruled by shoguns for centuries, with the samurai standing at the very core of Japanese society. By the early 17th century, Japan had finally found long-awaited peace. Following years of civil warfare, Tokugawa Ieyasu rose to power and established the Tokugawa shogunate. Under his rule, the country entered one of the most peaceful eras in its history. Yet along with peace came an unexpected turning point. Japan's rulers grew increasingly wary of foreign influence. European merchants and missionaries brought not only new goods, but also spread Christianity, which rapidly gained traction across parts of the country. The authorities viewed this as a direct threat to their control and traditional way of life. Gradually, Japan began sealing its borders. Foreign vessels were forbidden from entering Japanese ports, and Japanese citizens were prohibited from leaving the country under penalty of death. Exceptions were made only for strictly regulated trade with China, Korea, and the Netherlands. Thus began the era of isolation known as Sakoku. It would endure for more than 2 centuries. During this time, Japan remained largely disconnected from global events. While Europe experienced groundbreaking scientific discoveries and the Industrial Revolution, life on the islands moved at its own measured pace. Crafts, fine arts, kabuki theater, the tea ceremony, and many other traditions that define Japanese culture today flourished in this quiet isolation. Yet the nation could not stay hidden forever. In the second half of the 19th century, foreign warships appeared off the shores of Japan, forcing the country to finally open its doors to the world. For more than 200 years, Japan remained closed to the outside world. But in the mid-19th century, that isolation came to an end. In 1853, an American squadron commanded by Commodore Matthew Perry arrived off the nation's shores. These modern warships left a lasting impression on Japanese leaders, making it clear that full isolation was no longer possible. Japan was soon forced to open its ports to international trade. The shift sparked intense debate across the country. Many insisted on preserving age-old traditions, while others recognized that without bold reforms, Japan risked falling far behind the world's leading powers. In 1868, the Meiji Restoration took hold. Real authority returned to the emperor, launching the nation into an era of sweeping transformation. The government began building railways, opening modern schools and universities, expanding industry, and forming a new army modeled after Western militaries. In just a few decades, Japan evolved more than it had over centuries. These reforms marked the end of the samurai era. Their privileges were abolished, and carrying a sword no longer signified elite status. Many former samurai adapted, becoming civil servants, military officers, educators, or entrepreneurs. Despite this rapid change, the Japanese people preserved a deep reverence for their culture and traditions. This seamless blend of ancient heritage
and rapid progress became a defining feature of modern Japan. Yet new trials lay ahead, challenges that would not only reshape the nation's own destiny, but ripple across the entire world.
At the turn of the 20th century, Japan was undergoing rapid modernization. New factories, railways, and emerging technologies were swiftly transforming the country. Its economy was booming, and its influence across Asia grew stronger with each passing year. Yet alongside this progress, political tensions escalated. In the first half of the 20th century, Japan became involved in several military conflicts, culminating in the largest and most destructive of them all, World War II. The final years of the war were devastating. Countless cities lay in ruins, industry ground to a near-total standstill, and millions suffered the devastating aftermath. In August 1945, following the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, Japan announced its surrender, bringing the war to an end. The Japanese people were left with a daunting task: rebuild their nation virtually from scratch. The post-war decades marked the beginning of a monumental recovery. New enterprises rose, industries expanded, the education system was refined, and cutting-edge technologies were born. Driven by relentless hard work and rapid growth, this era would later be remembered as the Japanese economic miracle. By the end of the century, Japan had emerged as one of the world's leading economies. Automobiles, electronics, and high-tech innovations created by Japanese companies gained renown far beyond its borders. Yet despite this extraordinary transformation, Japan managed to preserve a deep respect for its traditions, which remain an essential part of life for millions today. Today, Japan is one of the most developed countries in the world. Here, ancient traditions blend remarkably with modern technology. Next to centuries-old temples stand towering skyscrapers, and high-speed trains connect the country's largest cities in mere hours. Japan is renowned for its achievements in science, robotics, automotive engineering, and electronics. Many of the technologies people use every day were created or significantly perfected right here. Yet, despite this rapid advancement, the Japanese continue to cherish their past. Tea ceremonies, traditional festivals, Shinto shrines, and Buddhist temples remain an integral part of daily life. Nature holds a special place in Japanese culture. Every spring, millions of people gather in parks to witness the cherry blossoms, an event that for centuries has symbolized beauty and the fleeting nature of time. Today, Japan is home to over 120 million people. It is a nation that managed to journey from the small settlements of its first inhabitants to one of the most technologically advanced powers of modern times, all while preserving its unique culture, history, and traditions. This is precisely why Japan continues to captivate people from around the world. Some come to see its ancient temples, others to experience its modern technology, and many simply want to feel the unique atmosphere of a land where the past and present seamlessly coexist. And with that, our journey through the history of Japan comes to an end. Over thousands of years, these islands have endured countless transformations. They have witnessed the birth of the earliest settlements, the rise of the samurai, centuries of isolation, rapid progress, and formidable trials. Yet, through it all, Japan preserved its distinct identity to become one of the most extraordinary countries in the modern world. Thank you for embarking on this journey with me. If you enjoyed this story, there are many more journeys through time ahead. we will explore the history of other nations, great civilizations, and events that changed the world forever. For now, it is time to rest. Wishing you a peaceful evening, a restful sleep, and until next time, on our next journey.